man, God reproves those he loves, and he disciplines those he loves. And and I said this Sunday, there's a fine line, and there's such a slippery slope between God has blessed me, and now my blessing has become my idol because I've viewed it improperly. And I've turned this blessing into my God. And there's such a fine line, and sometimes we don't see it until we've jumped across it, and sometimes it's sneaky and it's scary. And it's one of the reasons it's so important to make sure and to check ourselves and say, okay, God, this is your blessing. How do you want me to use it?
Right.
How do you want me to use it? How do you want me to use it? How do you want me to use it? And just continue to check yourself, because I agree. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
So, welcome to Let's Talk About That, the podcast where we take a deeper dive into Sunday's message and explore any questions you might have. I'm your host, AJ Stevens, joined by lead pastor Chip Parker, and I'm thrilled to be on this journey with you. Whether you're a longtime member of the Orchard or a first-time visitor, Let's Talk About That is your space to explore, reflect, and connect. Join us as we navigate the intricacies of faith, spirituality, and daily life, seeking to understand how the wisdom shared on Sundays can be applied to our modern challenges. So grab a cup of coffee, find a comfortable space, and let's dive in together. This is Let's Talk About That, where the conversation about Sunday's message never stops. All right, first podcast of 2025, because we didn't do one last week, and we have a special guest with us today, Miss Brittney Shearer.
Yeah, hello.
All right.
I think we got her.
Yeah, love it. Brittney's with us for a couple of reasons. One, I love getting to share people's stories with you, and we've said that before, because I feel like sometimes when people tune in or when people are there on Sundays, right, and we've talked about this, there's a level of, oh, that's the pastor, so of course it's going to be spiritual, right? And then when we have...
Do you think our people really still think that about us?
Yes. When it comes to like, what am I capable of? Yes. When it comes to, this is a normal dude, no. I mean, like, they absolutely think we are one of the guys, or...
Abnormal? Normally abnormal? Normally
abnormal, yes.
Yeah, okay.
But from the spiritual side of things, I do think there's still a level of like, oh, well, that's for them, not for me. And so I love getting to share stories, because this is somebody who's not in vocational ministry, right, Brittney? And we're going to get to this, but somebody who baptized 2 people at O-Day, right? And so God's...
Indeed, she did.
Still using you, still doing really cool things. And so I just like to share stories. God's journey, what he's doing, it's for you. It's not just for us, it's for everybody. So
yeah, that's good.
We're going to get there. But I think a great lead-in to Brittney's story was our conversation from Sunday. And you weren't there Sunday. Tell us why.
Well, so we start out the year every year, and have for the last, I think 3, with me and the boys going to Alabama on a hunting trip with my dad. And so we were up there again this year, and it was a good time. Chasen, my youngest, the 11-year-old, he shot his first deer this year, and it was cool because he shot it with my dad in the stand, and it was a different stand, but the same box. Like, we sit in boxes, especially when the kids are kind of squirrely. It was the same box that Dad was sitting in 3 years ago when Haddon shot his first deer with him. So it was cool. It was a good trip. We had a good time.
That's awesome.
We recorded the online message before the end of the year, and so it was there online, but I was not in Florida Sunday morning.
Yeah, I love that. So Chasen shot his first deer, and I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall for mostly every sit that he has, because I'm sure every sit is an adventure with him. But give us, how was the moment?
Well, long story short, he tried to put on earmuffs before he shot, and my dad said, "Son, you don't have time for that." And he threw up, and excuse me, for those of you who don't know, he threw up his gun. He threw up his gun and had the deer in the scope, and Dad said that he could tell that Chasen did not have the butt of the rifle seated in his shoulder. It's kind of sitting under his shoulder a little bit.
That would have been a classic recipe for getting scoped, as they call it.
Well, you said would have been. Turns out it was. Scope came back, caught him in the nose, so immediately, Dad sees that the deer's hit, and Chasen's like, trying to hold back tears, and he's whimpering. He's like, I'm trying to suck it up, And so Dad said that they get out to go see, if there's, blood from where they shot the deer. And Dad said as soon as he saw that there was blood on the ground, he was fine.
Yeah, that's great. I love it.
However, he was aggravated because he shot the deer a little after, not long after daylight. and he was ready to be picked up and taken back to the lodge because he had shot his deer.
Yeah, I'm done, baby.
Hear about everybody else. He was done. But no, it was fun. It was a good time. The one weird thing though is he goes, "Yeah, I think I'm going to take this deer," and he had an obsession with making the deer into sausage. He wants the deer to be made into sausage.
Love it.
And he says, "I'm going to take and give out some sausage to the kids in my class."
Okay.
And I was like,
What a giver.
"Jason,
Guy's a giver.
that'd be kind of weird to go hand out packs of deer sausage to kids at your school." So
Would it though?
I think it would. Even in this part of the world, I think handing out packs of frozen deer sausage to kids
Valentine's Day card. Deer sausage.
I was thinking Valentine's Day is coming up. You just slip it in with your little,
Yeah.
Do they still do that?
I think you're a buck and hand them to
You are the cutest doe I've ever seen. Here
Yeah,
you go.
I don't know. It was, but I said, no. How about we not do that?
I love it. I love it.
But
Does he have a
it's-
shiner? Did he get a shiner from it?
No, actually, he didn't. It scraped up his nose a little bit on one side, but he didn't catch him full on.
I've seen some nightmares from getting scoped. Britt, do you have? So first of all, it would have been just absolutely off-brand if we didn't start 2025 with a hunting story of some kind. So I'm glad we did that.
Well, hold on. I did notice though that you skipped right over the normal fantasy football chatter that you've been having going on forever. Is there a reason why you skipped over that, AJ?
There's something wrong with the mic.
Something's going on.
Chris, Chip, tell us how your fantasy season ended, man.
My fantasy season went pretty well.
Tell me how.
You and I both made 2 championships.
I did.
Out of our leagues.
Yeah.
The difference was I won 2 championships.
Yikes.
And you finished second in 2 championships?
I finished second, and then wait for it, dead last in my third lead.
Yeah. So
good for you. I'm proud of you, man. I want to shake your hand. We're shaking hands right now.
I appreciate that. You can't see that because we don't have a camera. But we did have the shake.
Yeah.
Which, to be honest, if you want to see a picture of what the handshake may have looked like, I still think that my Facebook profile picture may be you and I shaking hands, passing off the fantasy football trophy. I can't remember if that's...
No, because I creeped your Facebook the other day. I hope that's as weird as it sounds. It's not. It's a nice family picture.
Okay.
But you should change it back to us.
Maybe I need to. Since I
Yeah. Since you what?
won.
Oh, there it is. That's
But
great.
not that league.
I will say this. Yeah, it was not that league. You did leave the lobby that week. We were doing something. I don't know if it was church or maybe it was at church. I think it was at church. And you said, well, congrats, AJ. You're about to lose to me 2 weeks in a row in 2 different leagues. And then I spanked you in the first. I didn't spank you.
It came down to 9/10 of a point when you beat me in the semifinals of the other league you went to.
Yeah. Which felt good until you beat me in the other league. But I'm proud of you. I'm happy for you. You're a great commissioner. There's nobody better to be in charge. And
Thank you, co-commissioner.
I'm happy you won. I love it. Yeah, that's great. Also, I don't know if Lance listens to this. Shout out Lance. He won the other league.
He indeed does not.
Okay. Right. Britt, you said you do. And so do you have any deer stories you'd love to share with us?
Not even one.
Okay, but your dad's an assassin.
Slayer.
I know
Deer
that.
Slayer.
It also named
Slayer.
Chip. Chip will get out there, and Chip's a brown us down kind of guy.
Dude, we went to North Carolina for Christmas break, and we saw deer in Cades Cove. And Cody's like taking pictures of all of them, and then he's like, oh, that's a little deer. I'm like, my dad would shoot that right now.
Not to
yeah.
this day.
They thought it was a doe, but
That's great.
it's not.
That's great. Well,
Yeah. No, so I thought you were going a different direction when you asked her if she had a deer story, because this is her first time on the podcast. She says she listens to the podcast. So you got to know. You have to come prep for the question.
There was no prepping. I've never killed a deer, Chip.
Oh, no, that's
It
not the
wasn't
question.
that. It's the question that everybody gets asked their first time on here.
Surprise. Brittany, if you were a flavor, what flavor would you be?
Probably, just kind of in the middle, like strawberry.
Middle of what? There's
I was going to say, is there a flavor spectrum?
She's with strawberry.
She's talking
again.
the Neapolitan, where you got chocolate vanilla on one side, strawberry in the middle.
I'm not talking about ice cream. I'm talking about, there's people come into the store and there's blue people that like blue drinks, and there's people that hate blue drinks, and there's coconut people. There's not, but everyone likes strawberry.
I'm definitely not a coconut person,
kind of
and
the
I do
middle.
like strawberry.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was going to say, if you don't go with the tea flavor, you've missed the boat. Like, you have to go with the tea flavor.
You have
Yeah.
to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we'll find out why later.
Yeah.
Foreshadowing.
But what is your tea flavor?
Strawberry.
Strawberry. So strawberry is your...
No, strawberry, well, it's a lot going on in this cup. But
That's what I want to hear.
Strawberry watermelon.
All right, why are you, not why do you like strawberry watermelon, but why is Brittney embodying strawberry watermelon?
Because it's just like a middle ground, you know?
And you feel like you're pretty neutral.
Yeah.
Like you can be anywhere.
I can hang with the blue people.
Yeah.
And hang with the coconut people. But, you know, we all like strawberry.
It's just kind of weird because I thought, you know, Jesus said something about being lukewarm or whatever.
No,
I don't know.
No, I think it's good. I think it's true. I think, Brittney, you and I have a lot in common when it comes to that. And I see that. Like you're...
Wait, did you just say you were an in-the-middle kind of person?
No.
Okay,
no,
because that is not...
I am a much more up-key. Brittney is much more low-key.
You are a hot or cold...
Right.
100%.
But when I say that, I mean Brittney is very good at, all right, who am I around today?
Okay.
I'm going to fit in.
So she's a 3. She's a 3. She's a chameleon.
Probably a 3. Yes. Yeah. What do you have?
She's a 3 wing 2.
You don't know? 3 wings?
Yes.
Yeah. I can see that for sure. Yeah. So I think I see that. It's good. Strawberry watermelon. That's great.
Did you finish with strawberry watermelon, or were there more adjectives after that?
The other adjectives were lemonade because a little
there it is.
zing,
there
you know?
it is. We'll see. We do be having some
a
zing.
little zing.
Yeah,
I'm here for it.
Your people at your shop found out about the zing. All right, so another story for another day. We are in a brand new series. We'll go ahead and transition, not because there's not a million other fun things to talk about, but because in about, let me check my notes here, 43 minutes, students will be arriving because we are going to Atlanta today.
Passion
Conference.
That's exciting.
It is exciting.
I hope you guys don't get snowed in.
I hope we don't get snowed in.
We're not.
Because
we're coming home.
Me and Chad going to take that 15 passenger. We're going to be right in over that minivan and we gone, son. We out of there. I would say this real quick because the students are going to be there for a couple of days, and I actually told Lake City location this Sunday as we round out the service. I asked them to join me in prayer over the next 3 days because we're going to be praying for our high school seniors and college students that we're taking to Passion. And I just every year I'm blown away because you get into an arena and you just hear it all over the news outlets and you see it on social media, and it just seems like, man, the next generation is, in their own words, cooked. Like there's no hope, right? And then you go to Passion and you get in these arenas with these college students and they're on their faces, their hands are lifted, they're worshiping Jesus, their lives are being transformed in these moments. And just a good reminder that there's a lot of there's a lot of truth, but there's also a lot of lies the enemy plants out there in our culture. And Passion's a good reminder. Jesus is still very much at work. He's still saving people. The next generation's not lost on him. And these are the future CEOs of our country, and these are the future businessmen and women of our country. And so it's just cool to see God do that this week at Passion. But I asked our people, join me in prayer, because there's going to be people who need a spark of revival on this 3-day trip, and there's going to be people who need to encounter Jesus for the first time on this trip, and I believe he will do both. So
yeah, that's awesome. I'll take just a second and maybe nerd out just a second because I got 2 interesting bits of nerd knowledge I think that play into Passion going on this week. One is, like you said, about the demographic saying, this next generation's cooked or whatever. The idea that the next generation is falling away from faith really has no statistical support if you look at it from a theological lens, because what we see in the demographics are that the students who were just nominally Christian, like nominally, my mom and dad were Christian, but we never really go to church or whatever. Those kids aren't claiming to be Christian anymore.
Sure, yeah.
And so it looks like the generation has fallen off, but it's not true, because what we would consider maybe devout followers of Jesus, the percentage in this generation is right on par with every other generation and maybe even creeping upwards. So those that we would say are really Jesus followers, not just Christians, they haven't gone anywhere. And in many areas, they seem to care more about an authentic faith than generations that have come before them. So that idea that the next generation is falling away, they're lost, that it just doesn't hold up. It just means that people who claim to be Christian because it gives them credibility where they live and in their family and friend circles, that's going away.
Yeah.
And so those kids that go to Passion are usually the ones who have been taking it serious to begin with.
Yeah.
So that's exciting.
Yeah.
The other bit of random, nerd knowledge that is serious but not serious at all. And I'm not trying to put juju on you guys, but Atlanta is the worst city in the world to be in when it snows, because Atlanta always experiences snowpocalypse. Have you seen that? Because nobody knows how to drive. Traffic just shuts down.
This
is the name.
The last time that snowpocalypse hit Atlanta, Freddie Freeman was the first baseman for the Braves.
Yeah.
And I-75 shut down because traffic to
we ain't claiming
enough
to we ain't claiming. And Chipper Jones rode his four-wheeler to go pick up Freddie Freeman off the interstate so that he wouldn't have to stay there in his snowed-in car.
I heard about this. That's crazy. Yeah, that's just, but we don't have to worry about that?
No.
Because that's not happening.
Not at all. No. Not at all. Plus, there's enough redneck that's going in that van. You can get home.
Yeah, we'll get home. Yeah, I have no doubts. At the very least, Chad will get us home. Look, Chad will take us home.
Can't wait to meet you.
Had an oldest son says that, if the zombie apocalypse hits, he's glad that he lives around rednecks.
Come on.
Yes, amen.
Amen. I love it.
Our boy can't survive.
Here's the phenomenal segue. It's going to be a little stressful going to Passion, but it's worth it, right? It is worth it. And that's kind of the conversation that we had this past week. And this was fun for me because I got to hear your sermon, and then I got to see Eddie's notes. And everybody, because we didn't have a regular Tuesday meeting because we were all off. So I kind of just took this conglomeration of everybody's notes and said, all right, well, where can we go? How can we get here? And this is a lot of fun. And so it was cool just to see this is the conversation we're about to have over the next couple of weeks is so relevant because there's so many people that come to us and say, I'm just stressed out.
Yeah.
Right. I'm just too stressed. And we live in this culture that says, well, if you're blessed, you can't be stressed.
That's right.
Right. And that's kind of the play on the word, but the title is you see these Hobby Lobby.
You're healthy, you're wealthy, everything comes easy. You've got, a great job, a great family, 6-pack abs, $100 bills falling out of your pockets. That's, if you're blessed, right? Hashtag blessed.
Right. Yeah. And there's just this idea that those two things they cannot coexist. Being blessed and being a little stressed. And when people come in the office and they talk to me about that, or I go sit with them at coffee, I'm like, man, here's the thing. The world is trying to do everything you're trying to do, and then on top of the world trying to do everything you're trying to do, you're trying to do it through a kingdom mindset. If you're trying to do it the right way, that's going to add a little more to your plate than they have to deal with. Perfect example. Katie and I are sitting down, and I said to the Sunday, at the risk of making people think I was asking for their money, but so this Sunday I said, Katie and I sat down and did our budget. And one of the thoughts we had when we're having this conversation is how this has got to be incredibly foreign to the non-believer that we're just taking 10% of our income, we're just getting rid of it. That doesn't make any, why would that make sense to them?
I think everybody who has, either grown up or developed that, stewardship, generosity, tithing, whatever you want to say, mindset, has to at one point in their life just have that man, this would be so different if that 10% was back in the budget. And then if you've never grown up that way, how do you even start? Because everybody's budget's redlining anyway. And so, it is not a normal concept for most people in the world.
No. And it's just everybody's trying to do everything you're trying to do. They're trying to raise a family. They're trying to have a career, trying to be a good friend. They're trying to be a good spouse. And then here you're a believer. The kingdom requires more of you, to be honest. It's going to ask that you be a spouse a certain way. It's going to ask that you be a friend a certain way. It's going to ask that you love people you don't like a certain way. And so, there's going to be some stress in your life. And kind of bringing that conversation to a head to kind of lay the foundation for the weeks coming, it was really all right, if this is true, then you start to realize, stress is a normal part of life, and God is blessing you in the middle of the stress so that you can bless other people who are really stressed out with the things the world is offering because they don't understand and they don't have hope at all. And so with the blessings is going to come some stress, and the whole point is that you would turn around and bless other people so that they can be a part of the kingdom and understand that. And I love the word that Eddie used. I did the deep dive on it. Use stress, right? You understand that there's a certain kind of stress, and it's healthy, and it's not a bad thing. And so I think that was helpful. How much of that did you dive into?
I didn't go into the eustress, part at all, but the idea really that kind of generated this series is that you see people that are stressed. You see people that start to say, life's going to be better when things slow down, or this is just a season or whatever, and that time never comes. And so ultimately what happens so many times is people begin to, quote, step back. You hear him say, I'm just going to take a step back. And what I've seen is they just step back from the wrong things. They just step back from the wrong things. And the other part of that is I think because we live in that culture of social media, it feels like there's almost two extremes when it comes to stress, which is I need to be as de-stressed as possible, right? We just want to eliminate as much stress as possible. And the other side just likes to embrace I'm just such a hot mess, but they work really hard to be a hot mess. You know what I mean? There's not a healthy biblical view of what you were saying, AJ, is that as followers of Jesus, we are under obligation to live differently, which is going to bring stress in our life. And the way that, I don't know if you said this in the message, I don't think I did, but the way that we talk about it around the office, and this wasn't original me, I heard it from Pastor Matt Chandler. He said, I plan to step into heaven's gates tired.
Yeah.
I don't want to be well rested and not stressed out when I step into eternity, right? We've got one life, so let's live it well. And really kind of to fast forward to what for me was the takeaway of this week, right? This idea of being blessed. We're more blessed than most people in the world, almost everybody throughout history. With those blessings comes stress, right? Technology, disposable income, bigger houses, more property, more things means more upkeep. Those blessings inherently bring stress. But beyond that, when we say we are blessed, we are inherently acknowledging that God is the giver of these things, and therefore we are blessed.
Yeah.
Right? He has gifted them to us. But we are functional hypocrites.
I love this.
When we say that he's given us these things, but then we don't use them the way he desires us to use them.
Yeah.
We use them the way we want to use them. We take those blessings and let them terminate on ourselves instead of saying, no, if God has given this to me, then I'm under obligation to him to use them the way that he desires. And, it's in my mind, it's almost as simple as I'm sure your parents have said this to you at some point in your life. As long as you're living under my roof, you're going to live by my rules, right?
Never once.
I'm sure you
never once.
But if what we have, we receive from the hand of a good father, that we're living by his rules, if we're going to live in his house.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is the rub. And I did mention that. I told them Sunday, I want to get to heaven worn out because I don't want to look back on a season of my life when I get there thinking, or when I'm about to get there thinking, I wish I just would have gave more of I had more time and energy to give. I wish I would have gave it to the kingdom in this season of my life. And one of the things I said Sunday specifically was, you get from right now until you die to have a true impact on the kingdom in eternity. From right now until you die. And in the grand scheme of things, that's maybe one generation, maybe half a generation at this point, depending on where you're at in the season of life. And there's nobody else coming to undo what you, or to do what you didn't do, or to undo what you did. And so, it's you. God's put you here for this season to have an impact on eternity. And I think you're 100% right. A lot of people are choosing what's convenient as opposed to what they're called to by the King. In the stories Jesus laid out, the Master.
Yeah, right? I think maybe if we could summarize this series in one phrase, it would be kind of, hey, don't step back, lean in.
Yeah.
Lean in.
It's phenomenal. And that's why, I was going to ask Brittney to come and join us because she was coming anyway. And I had been thinking through this series, and I'm like, man, she's probably got a healthy level of exactly what we're talking about with just, I think the way that you love the girls that come in your shop. I think the way that you love people that come in your shop, the girls that work for you, the guys that work for you too, because you got Jake in there. And so I thought about you last night. Didn't want to overwhelm you though, because you're just getting back in town and have a lot going on. But I think you have a unique perspective on the series because you've seen God bless the things that have stressed you out. Yeah. And then you've done a phenomenal job of being open-handed, I think, and saying, all right, well, here it is. I'm going to turn it back around and I'm going to do what I can for the kingdom. And so I would love for you to just kind of start to unpack some of your story. So I know in the car on the way over here, we were talking a little bit, and let's start pre-COVID, because that's when I think some of the discontentment maybe starts to set in.
Yeah.
So one, where are you at, like city-wise? And then what were you doing before COVID?
So I live in Live Oak. I've lived in Live Oak my whole life, besides a few years in Gainesville.
With my wife.
Yes.
Roomies.
But pre-COVID, I was teaching school, really knew that that's where the Lord wanted me to be for that season, and coaching weightlifting. So I was thinking about when you're like, we're kind of similar in my personality with weightlifting. It was like all or nothing, like we're not just going to lift a few weights. Like we got to win, So
baby, come on.
was like,
not very strawberry of you. I love it.
Yeah.
That's the lemonade coming through.
That's the thing. But it took up so much time, and not that was bad time, but when COVID happened, all of that was like halt, there was nothing that we could do. And so I started to feel myself saying like, Lord, is this it? Like, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Because I know it's weird for everyone right now, but just a lot of, I don't know. I feel like during COVID, the Lord turned me into a dreamer. I had always been such a realist. Like, no, like your parents paid for you to go to college to be a teacher. Like, let's just teach. You have a PE position. Like, just roll the basketballs out for 30 years,
Get the paycheck.
Yeah,
baby.
get the paycheck. So that was safe and secure. And then during COVID, it was just like, I really started, I feel like that is really when my journey of trusting the Lord started. I had known the Lord, but I don't feel like I was really fully like trusting everything. So I feel like that is where really that started for me.
So why? What happened? What happened during COVID that sent you into dream mode? That took you from, all right, I'm here, I'm doing the right things, but I'm not sure I really trust you. Like what unfolds during COVID that gets you to that point?
So I was living with my parents, and that's a whole story, like when you move away to college and then you come home and live back with your parents, that's interesting spot to be in anyway.
All this freedom to,
you're
back under my roof.
Love him so much. Like,
he's a great dude.
Absolutely. But during that time, it was like, okay. So I really was like, I want to be healthier. Like, I want to work out. I have plenty of time. I'm literally collecting a paycheck from the school and sitting at home doing nothing. So started, working out at home.
Yeah, what does a PE coach do during COVID?
Right.
Did you have to do anything?
They were like, you need to submit lesson plans. I'm like, brother,
I roll out basketball.
I don't know what you want from me,
All right, that's hilarious. That was an actual genuine question.
Like, you need to call your students. I'm like, what do we talk about? Like, did you walk today? I don't know. Yeah. So anyways, I started doing these workouts, and I was just like, got introduced to Herbalife, which is what I do now. And it was just at home, making my little shakes in the kitchen, and memories pop up, and I'm still like, whoa, this is how it all began, in a little mason jar at my parents' house, pouring a shake and some little whipped cream. And I thought I was doing something,
you were doing something, because I'd be sliding by some of them little mason jar.
Yes, for real.
That was when Austin was here. Hey, Austin, let's go to Brittney's house for
gosh. Yeah, all right, let's have it. So, the question of like, Lord, is this it? Like, just kept over and over. I just kept asking, because I'm like, it just feels like I should be doing more. Like, I don't know if I should be doing different, but I should be doing more. Maybe.
You needed a little more of that healthy eustress in your life.
I got it. But through that, I was telling AJ on the way over here, you Live Oak people will understand, but the old Enterprise building, Chip, it's probably as big as this desk right here.
That's amazing.
So small. I remember me and Kelly, I was dreaming with Kelly, and she's like, let's do it. We were both teaching. We're both at home.
So so you had gone from, I'm just kind of doing this in my kitchen. Yeah. Introduced to, who was kind of the lady
So one of my weightlifting girls.
Okay.
Her dad.
Okay. He's the one that kind of thrust you into this. Here's what I'm doing, that kind of thing. So you're just kind of dabbling at home, just making it, these are kind of good and whatever. And then you start dreaming, you and Kelly get together.
Yeah, me and Kelly get together, and Brianna. But I saw that people were serving these shakes out of like commercial locations. And I was like, that would be cool, but also like it's Live Oak, you know, like, are we going to be able to do this? I remember my dad sitting me down when I was just starting, and he would be like, do you know how many of these little drinks that you're going to have to sell? Like, I got no clue, Dad.
Chip, not a dreamer. He 100% said these little drinks.
These little drinks right here. So went to the Enterprise building. I remember laying my hands on it with Kelly, literally. I will never forget this. Laying our hands on the building and saying, like, Lord, if this is what you want, I pray that you will make a way. You know, like, I get emotional thinking about it, but it was so small. Like, my dreams were so small back then because I was just learning to trust the Lord. And fast forward, that building didn't work out. And I was like, you know, like, I go back to school.
Dreams crushed, yeah. No. I'm rolling out basketballs again.
But I don't know if you want me to, like, go.
Yeah, so yeah, I would love you to, because I think there's an element of faith in this story. I think there's an element of trust that, I mean, you said that's the thing you struggled with, right? Yeah. Like, that God teaches you along this journey. So this building doesn't work out. What happens next?
So I was a teacher, you know, I didn't have that much money. And so I'm like, okay, I'm looking for a little small spot, like, that I can teach and pay. So we go out this little dirt road in Live Oak. And there's this building, it's unfinished, a little spot in a big building. And I'm like, I think we could do it, you know? So I just remember standing there with my sister and asking the Lord, you know, if this is what you want. And as we're pulling out, the owner of the building pulls in and is like, hey, you want to look around? I'm like,
God, is that you?
Sure, we do. Yep. Yeah. So we look around and we look, you know, at a whole concrete slab because that's all there was.
Yeah.
But
nice looking concrete slab.
Yeah, it was. You know, I could see it.
You were in dream mode.
I was.
The beauty of a concrete slab.
Yeah.
Well, you know, that's one of the things I say about, you know, dreamers, visionaries, is it's not just knowing where you want to go.
Yeah.
It's understanding how you get there.
Yeah.
And so there is part of that. Like, you got to see it. You've got to, you know, see it begin to take shape. And everybody has an idea of what things need to look like.
Right.
But, you know, the dreamers are like, yeah, but I think we can get there. You know, that's the difference.
That's right. That's right.
And I don't feel like I've been like that my whole life. You know, like, I have trouble decorating my room, you know, like what goes where. But I know that in that season, the Lord taught me how to do all that.
Sure.
So anyways, fast forward, we get that, you know, concrete slab, turn it into a beautiful spot. And the Lord really, like, I was telling AJ that year of, thank you so much. For everyone not here, he just shot a rubber band at me.
On accident. That year, sorry, carry on.
That year is really when the Lord taught me the most. So I was still teaching school, but I knew that the Lord had called me to step away from that and be at Inside Out full time. But I was too scared. And so
what were some of the signs that you were like, okay, God, I'm pretty confident you're calling me away from school here?
Well, I had already, I mean, you know how we make deals with the Lord sometimes. Okay. So like I said, I was still learning, but I was just like, you know, if we could do this much every day, I think I could step away. And then it was like, as I'm like making my plans, the Lord is just like, it was like stamp of approval is what it felt like.
Okay.
Like, okay, you're asking this and I'm showing you that I can do it.
Okay.
You're asking this and I'm showing you that I can do it, like, over and over and over. And then things at the school that I used to be really passionate about just started, like, that passion started to shrink. And it was like, I just craved being over here, you know? And so I felt like he changed that in me because it was hard to walk away.
Yeah.
Not from rolling the basketballs out, but from the weightlifting team.
Yeah.
You know, like, started with 3 girls and there was like 78 by the time I left. Like, that's hard to walk away from. Yeah. So that was definitely the part that I was hanging on to.
Yeah.
And the Lord has shown me now, like, there's so much more. There's so much more over here in what I have for you than what you think you have created, you know? So
you guys are looking around that building. You got ahead. You make the plunge.
Yeah.
Despite your hesitations and reservations.
Yes.
God's kind of stamping the approval on this whole thing.
I think there's a series tie in here too, right? It's because, you know, you were talking about you needed to step back from the school.
Yeah.
But you were stepping back from the school so that you could lean in to something else.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Something else that's probably going to breed a little more stress.
Yeah, just a little.
Right. And so But you know it's better at this point, or at least you're dreaming it's better. And so what is kind of your vision as you're doing this? Because you have, I know personally, the branding was huge for you.
Yeah.
Right? We didn't just want a tea shop. We didn't just want theirs are out there.
Right.
You had something specific in mind. So maybe talk about that. What did you have in mind to kind of coincide with this idea of these little drinks?
Yeah.
Right?
So even the name, like I remember that's where it all starting. Have a group text with all my girlfriends, you know,
Yeah.
and I remember I was like, we're going to call it The Spot. Like, this is going to be the spot where everyone comes, and they're like, okay, you know, that's what you love. Because I just wanted it to be a place where they could come and hang out and feel safe. And then I was just like, that doesn't like encompass everything that I wanted to. And actually, I don't know if you know this, but your wife named Inside Out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Proud husband.
So I was in the group text, and I was like, I wanted it to be 2 words. Like, I know that I want it to be 2 words, and I want it to be like, you're beautiful, like from the inside out. I wasn't saying inside out at this point, but I was just describing like,
Right.
The Lord changes you from the inside out. Yes. Yeah. Just everything. Like it all flows from the inside out. And so when Katie said, what about Inside Out? I was like, that's it. Yeah. And it had been like, I had filed an LLC with a different name, you know, like I was like, this isn't right. Like, it just was not sitting right with me. And so, even the small details, like I wanted them to mean something. Thank the Lord for Katie. Right. Yeah. But, so fast forward, that place was great. Quit my teaching job, went full time, and then really watched the Lord, like, show me like this is what I have for you, you know? And I got to move uptown, you know?
Right.
So the little spot that we're talking about was down a dirt pebble road. Like I was so afraid. But I knew that with my teaching salary, I could pay that rent, you know? And then I wanted to move uptown, and I was just looking in these windows, found this spot, and literally spent every dime that I had to move there. That was a whole season of being stressed and trusting the Lord, like, because he was, I mean, you know how the building happened, you know, I'm looking in the windows, I'm like, hey, I really, like, I think this is my spot. Like, I think this is where I'm supposed to go. I was like, I know the guy, you know, give me his number. I called him at like 10 p.m. or something, but
you sure did.
I did. I thought it was his son. Yeah. See?
Yeah.
I will say that once I like decide, I'm like, this is what it is. Like it has to be that.
Me and Chip can't relate to that at all.
Yeah. It has to be that.
Couldn't be me.
So now, you know, uptown and like had the best year of business so far this year.
Yeah.
But through all of that, obviously a lot of stress, a lot of like business going down, losing people, walking through seasons of a lot of loneliness, because even though like you guys, my friend and my closest friends like love me and support me and want to see me do well, and my family the same, like there's just a certain point that people don't understand, you know?
Yeah, sure.
And so I think that just like step by step, faith by faith, the Lord just taught me to trust him and that he wasn't going anywhere. You know, he would be there tomorrow, and as long as I'm doing it for him, then it's all going to take care of itself.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's one of my favorite parts about what you're doing, because clearly the Lord has said, okay, Brittney, I'm going to bless this.
Yeah.
And one of our biggest pieces of emphasis from the sermon Sunday was exactly what you said, the rub. Now, if you have blessed me, there's going to be something the master requires of me with this blessing. Like he's going to ask me to use it a certain way. And for you, it's not just another shop. It's not just another, because there's other Herbalife shops out there, right?
Yeah.
It's not that. You have a unique ministry mindset with this place. And that is, to me, the evidence of, it just is my opinion, why the Lord has said, okay, go ahead. And if you can be faithful with little, I'm going to let you be faithful with much. And walk through that maybe, because I think a lot of people out there are dreaming and want what's next, and maybe they're restless or they're doing it for the wrong reasons.
Well, let me even narrow that down a little bit, because I think, you know, hearing your story, there's people who are out there thinking, I want to leverage my blessings for the kingdom, right? Yeah. But how do you go from opening up a tea shop that sells these little drinks, right, to baptizing 2 people this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, connect those dots for people.
Yeah.
Okay. So first of all, let me roll it back to when we were talking about tithing.
Yeah.
So I didn't grow up tithing. I mean, like, you know, we went to small little Baptist church, and I would always remember my parents, you know, like throwing a $20 bill in the plate or whatever, but it was never a discussion. And so we did a series here talking about giving, and I was so convicted about the money that I was making and not tithing. And I was like, I don't even know what that looks like. You know, like you hear all of these things your whole life, but like, what does that actually look like for me? You know, what is the Lord asking of me? Like, is it 10% of my sales? You know, like, is it 10% of what, you know, like, you don't know until you know.
Like, no joke. I had been a pastor for less than 6 months, and I got called into one of the senior adult Sunday school classes because they were arguing if you were supposed to tithe 10% before or after tax. You know, so it's like, I mean, so there is like, what is it?
Yeah. And, you know, when you're in that moment of just like wanting to be faithful and make the right decision, you're like, okay, what is it? So anyways, I remember starting to tithe, and this is before, now I have other people on my team who have nutrition clubs now. And this is before them. And I kept saying like, Lord, like, I want you to bring some more people. Like, I want to be able to show people like this, because it's been so good for me. It's changed my whole life. Like, can you bring me someone to teach? And he didn't, not he couldn't, but he didn't in those moments because I wasn't ready. And it's like, I felt like you aren't doing what you are asked to do. So started tithing.
Delayed obedience is immediate disobedience.
Immediate. Yeah. Started tithing, and I'm not saying you tithe and then the magic happens, you know, but
if you'll sow a seed of 99.
Yeah.
But really it was more about me being faithful with my decision and being obedient than it was about a dollar amount.
Yeah.
And so I learned how to do that. And it's funny, the girl I baptized at O-Day, well, let me tell you her story and then I'll tell you this, but she was coming in to Inside Out a lot, like every day. And we formed a good relationship, you know, and her grandmother passed away. And I immediately knew something was up, you know, because you see these people every day. And so I'm like, what's going on, girl? Like, how are you? Not good. I'm like, what's going on? She wasn't ready to talk about it. And then one day she came and sat at my bar and just like, let me have it. And I was like,
just offloaded everything.
Just offloaded.
I have noticed that your tea shop functions much like a salon or a coffee shop or hairstylist shop in that way. People come in, they feel comfortable, and they
do.
They share information.
They're always like, hey, I'll pay for the tea, but the therapy is free. I'm like, yes, for sure. But she told me all about it. Anyways, we started to form this friendship, right? Fast forward, she joins Herbalife. She starts working behind my bar. And then that's even more an in-depth relationship. Decides she wants to open her own shop. And so that is who I baptized at O-Day. But she said it we just came back from a trip this weekend, and she said, we're sitting in the living room. I was telling one of my new girls, like, you have to learn to trust the Lord. That's the most important part of this whole journey. Mm-hmm. And so she said, I didn't know how to trust the Lord. And so I just held your hand until I figured it out. And I was like,
that's pretty good.
That's good stuff.
Pretty good.
Like,
yeah.
You know, she's like, you didn't have it all figured out, but I knew that at the end of the day, it didn't matter what was going on, that you were going to trust the Lord with it. And that's how I want to be. Yeah. So that was like a whole moment for me, you know, like you think you're just out here serving drinks and it's like constant reminders of no is so much more than that.
Yeah.
But she opened her shop, right? She's open on Sundays. And I'm like, all right. So
we'll get there.
This weekend I was like, okay, this has been on my heart, sis. You know, like we got to have a conversation. So, and she won't care that I tell y'all this, but the whole world this.
You say it's us and 12 other people. So
yeah. But you know, just that conversation, that when I had to learn about you have to tithe, you have to give back, in order for all these other things to function correctly. Like, you don't know until you know, just like I talked about. And so I was teaching her that this weekend, like that's fine. If you want to be open on Sunday, do whatever you want, But what I'm telling you is that as quickly as the Lord gave you the building, it can disappear. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to be faithful with what He's given you.
Come on.
Or he will break you until you.
Yeah. That is so, man, it's so true. And I opened our conversation Sunday with James 1:2-4, and used the idea of this thing in the workout world called time under tension. And the new working theory in the workout world is that it's not about how many reps you put in. It's about how long you can put that muscle group under stress while you finish a rep. And it's called time under tension. And the Christian life is much like that.
Yeah.
It's time under tension. And I think what James is showing us in James chapter 1 is that there is something beautiful that happens when you're experiencing time under tension that does not happen in any other season of your spiritual life. There's a certain level of spiritual growth that happens in some of the hardest parts of your life. And when you, and this is one of the reasons why it's so unhealthy to be the believer that says my life should just be blessing all the time. There should be no level of stress, because sister or brother, there's a certain level of stress that you're going to go through, and that's going to grow you in ways that no other season of your spiritual life is going to do that. And I think in less words, that's kind of what you're sharing with her. Like, man, God reproves those He loves, and He disciplines those He loves. And and I said this Sunday, there's a fine line, and there's such a slippery slope between God has blessed me, and now my blessing has become my idol because I've viewed it improperly, and I've turned this blessing into my God. And there's such a fine line, and sometimes we don't see it until we've jumped across it, and sometimes it's sneaky and it's scary, and it's one of the reasons it's so important to make sure and to check ourselves and say, okay, God, this is your blessing. How do you want me to use it?
Right.
How do you want me to use it? How do you want me to use it? How do you want me to use it? And just continue to check yourself, because I agree, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think, something else that doesn't need to be lost here is inside out nutrition. It doesn't mean that you're putting a cross or a WWJD or a fish on all of your teas that you sell out, and say, we only wish people Merry Christmas, not Happy Holidays in this store. That's easy stuff that makes us feel good, because now we have a, quote, Christian business, right? But the truth is, the harder road, but the road that Jesus calls us to, is a road of obedience and investment, right? We're investing in the people that He brings our way. And it doesn't mean that you have to have that, quote, Christian business. You don't have to sell Christian buildings or, sell Christian used cars or be a Christian pest control expert. You just are a follower of Jesus while you do those things, and you use what He has given you and blessed you with that kingdom mindset. And so I think so often we want to settle for the easy way out, and think that, Christian is an adjective, but it's not. It's a noun. It's not that we're slapping a cross on everything we do and saying, okay, now I'm using this for the kingdom. No, you may be running a terrible business and treating people horribly, and just because you have a cross on your door doesn't mean anything.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so she's one example of that. But I think I know the girls that work in your shop, right? And I see the way that you invest, and I see the way they care about you, and I see the way they want you to stay in their room with you at passion. And you know what I mean? They just, they love you. And I think that speaks to the way that you have really done a good job of saying every corner of what Inside Out does, we're going to try to do ministry in. Whether that's the ladies and guys behind the bar that work for me, whether that's the people that come in and say, hey, there's the therapy free here, you know what I mean? Whatever it looks like. I think the reason I wanted you to come on here today and tell your story is because you have done a good job of doing exactly what Chip just said. This is what God has given me. And it would be easier if I was just in it for the money. It would be easier if I just kept the sales for myself. We would make more money if we were open on Sunday. And the list goes on and on and on, but you haven't. You've said, God, you've given me this, and now I want to leverage it with the way that I invest in the girls that work for me. I want to leverage it with the way people walk in here. I want to leverage it with the way that I send other people out with their own little mission fields and Herbalife tea shops and so on and so forth. And the evidence of that is when you walk through that the right way, God has blessed it, and you get the most rewarding part of the process, in my opinion. And Chip, you can speak into this too. To me, there is no part of the process that's more rewarding than getting to sit in the river with people and watch them take a step that says, I've gone from death to life because I held her hand. You know what I mean?
That's really cool.
Yeah. You got anything else you want to say?
I just think it's all come full circle recently, you know, talking about being in the room with the girls at Passion. Like, she was on my weightlifting team, and then she was a customer, and now she's an employee, and this weekend we're staying in a room together at Passion, you know, like everything comes full circle, but it's definitely not the easy road, you know. Like, there are so many conversations that I have with even my people behind the bar, you know, like, hey, I know that some people are difficult, like, and I don't care. We're going to love them regardless, you know.
Is that what you say after AJ comes in?
Absolutely. Like, I am sorry, you guys.
My kids come in and say, I want a donut. Give me a donut.
Boba. But you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a constant reminder of, like, the Lord is teaching me, so I have got to funnel that down and say, hey, like, this is how we're going to do things here, because it would be a lot easier to just let it ride.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so good. I appreciate you. Appreciate you kind of on a whim coming in here and sharing some of your story.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. And hopefully it's a good encouragement as people start their year, a good perspective shift, and they say, all right, in 2025, I want to make sure that I identify the things the Lord has blessed me with, and I do my best to leverage them the way He wants me to leverage them, because He's got a way. He wants you to leverage it, and He's got a calling, and He's got a purpose for it. And the beautiful thing about this, and I said this Sunday, and I don't want to be misleading with this, because there are plenty of people out there who hoard their money and they look for successful. But some of the most successful Christian men and women I know, some of the most wealthy Christian men and women I know, give away more than you would ever imagine. And it's insane. And you're like, that doesn't make sense. How would you be able to give away so much and still have so much? And I truly believe it's the Lord saying, you've been faithful and you've leveraged these things the way I'm calling you to leverage it. And so I'm going to keep giving you things to leverage because you're doing kingdom work with them.
So much like He talked about that.
Yeah. Weird.
Crazy.
It's good, man. It's good stuff. I love it. Anything else you want to add, Chip?
Yeah. I hope you guys don't get snowed in.
We're not.
In Jesus' name.
Chip.
In Jesus' name.
Well, I think if you draw like a cross in the dirt on the back of your windows, you'll be good.
Honk for Jesus. WWJD.
Maybe there's a reason I don't have an orchard sticker on my truck.
So you can cut people off.
Road rage is a thing. Road rage is a thing.
I love it. That's great. Well, there's no orchard stickers on these vans, so we'll get where we need to go.
Perfect. Reynolds.
They can
I'll take that extra insurance. Let's go.
I love it. Well, cool. I appreciate you guys sitting with us. We're on pace to have an average of 52-minute podcast for the year, so
on base.
That'll be great. Let's go. I'm sure we can derail that quickly. All right. We will catch you guys next week. See ya. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Let's Talk About That. We hope it encouraged and challenged you as we continue to grow in this journey of faith and embrace community. If you have more questions, thoughts, or feedback, we'd love to hear from you. Reach out to us through our social media channels or visit our website and stay connected. Your questions are what make this podcast a dynamic and enriching experience. If you found today's discussion meaningful, don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a review. Your engagement helps us spread the message and connect with others who may find value in these conversations. Until next time, we hope this episode inspired you and will help you bring Sunday's message into your week ahead. Keep the conversation alive, and remember, we're all on this journey together.